What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WWE Network and Chill, where every single week I, Graham Jason Matthews, break down all the original content I watch on the WWE Network as well as on the E Network. As today we're talking Total Bellas Season 4, Episode 4, entitled It's My Life, that aired this past Sunday night on the E Network. We had a bit of a break last week during the Super Bowl, and no new episodes aired during the Super Bowl, so we're back for the first time in 2 weeks. To kind of catch up on where we left off last time with Nikki Bella, she was meeting up with her Dancing with the Stars partner, Artem, to go out for lunch, and I mean, obviously on the surface, it's more of like, kind of a catch-up thing, with friends, blah, blah, blah. And Nikki offers Artem this proposal to get her mom dancing too, to kind of fulfill her dream of being a part of Dancing with the Stars, even though it's not really Dancing with the Stars. The whole process of getting ready for the dance and doing the dance is the same. So she brings that idea up to Artem, who loves the idea, but really deep down, Nikki wants to maybe not date Artem. Obviously, she doesn't outright say that, but she comes across as very flirty here during the conversation. They bring up their current dating status. Oh, have you been with anyone recently? How's the breakup going? Blah, blah, blah. He seems pretty chill about it. I mean, he's not denying the flirtation, the flirting and whatnot. I mean, he's going along with it too. The attempts by Nikki to kind of flirt with him and kind of get his status for where he's at right now in his dating life and whatnot. So he's not denying it, but at the same time, he doesn't seem as obvious with his intentions to be with Nikki as obviously Nikki is, at least in my opinion. So like I said, they kind of catch up. Nikki brings up how Kathy has this lifelong dream of partaking in Dancing with the Stars, and he's going to see what he can do to kind of make that happen. Meanwhile, the Bellas train with Daniel Bryan for their return to the ring in time for Evolution. Meanwhile, Bree brings up to Bryan Bryan brings up to Bree rather, that he has a 3-year contract with WWE. So kind of a newsworthy episode of Total Bellas here. Before this episode aired, we had no idea how long Bryan had re-signed with WWE for when his contract initially expired a few months ago in the fall of 2018. Well, now we know it's a downside guarantee of however much it might be. It's a guaranteed contract, he said, for 3 years. So it looks like Bryan will be with WWE until at least 2021. And that concerns Bray, because I know he recently retired, and what if your career ends again abruptly? You never know. So Brie brings up the idea to Bryan to branch off into business. And yes, that is an absolute tongue twister, and I will not attempt to say that again. But yes, Bryan, his entire life is the WWE. Brie wants him to do something outside of WWE when the time comes for him to stop wrestling. By that time, he'll be 40-something. And Brie wants Bryan to have a backup plan for if wrestling falls through before then or after he retires. And Bryan is kind of more my kind of guy when he's like, yeah, I'll see what happens until then. I mean, WWE is my life. I don't know what's going to happen in 3 years. Let's worry about it when we get to it. But I can also see where Brie's coming from, too. She's like, well, I don't want you to freak out once you retire. Like, oh, what do I do now? Like, I don't have the tools necessary to build my own brand or build my own business, blah, blah, blah. We should start the process now. But I still agree with Bryan more so than Brie that you got to focus on the right now and enjoy the moment before you can worry about something that's not for another few years down the road. Meanwhile, Nikki trains with Ronda Rousey at her house, I think in Los Angeles, and she has a really, really nice house. She has like this this place, this pen for all these animals that she has. And then Nikki brings the family with her. I think she might bring John Laurinaitis. She definitely brings Kathy with her, and they all go to Ronda Rousey's house, except for Brie Bella, which Brie was not all that happy about. And Nikki talks about how Ronda elevates her, and she pushes her to be better, which is great. I mean, Rousey should be pushing Nikki to be better, and you would think it'd be the other way around, because Rousey's still relatively inexperienced in wrestling, and Nikki's not amazing, but she has way more experience in the ring than Ronda does. But it's actually the other way around. Ronda is a very determined, motivated person, enough to the point where she's even pushing Nikki to be better come their match to Evolution, which is probably why their match was so good at the pay-per-view, at least in my opinion. Way better than I thought it would be. So Nikki brings up how she wants to do the dance with her mom. She brings it up to Brie, and Brie thinks it's a good idea. And obviously, in doing so, she brings up the fact that her and her mom would be training with Artem. Brie not too happy with the idea that she'd be training with Artem. Brie's of the mindset that if people see Nikki with Artem, her old Dancing with the Stars partner, that people will start rumors and start talking about how, she was with Artem the entire time, and she left John Cena for Artem, and it's going to create all this drama and all this bad publicity, all this negative publicity for the Bellas, specifically Nikki. So she's worried about Nikki. And Nikki is obviously very overwhelmed by Brie's reaction, seeing where she's coming from, but at the same time, she doesn't really want to care. So she talks to Kathy about it. She talks to Mama Bella about it. And she says, listen, I don't know where Brie's coming from, but I don't want to feel like every single time I go out that I'm ruining the women's empowerment movement. And I just want to be happy. So Kathy says, you just got to protect yourself. Don't worry about what other people think about you or say about you. Fuck everyone else is what Kathy says. So go Mama Bella with that quote. She goes, fuck everyone else. Just worry about yourself. And don't worry about how anyone else perceives you. And the thing with Brie, too, again, I see where she's coming from, but that problem hasn't even arisen yet. So why worry about something that hasn't even happened yet? If there was an idea, I mean, obviously that's going to happen no matter what. Even when Nikki was with John Cena, that was happening. Nikki talked about it here, like every time she would train with Artem, and they had that chemistry together. People were commenting on their Instagram pages saying, fuck you should be with John Cena, blah, blah, blah. So there was obviously that going on as well. But Nikki really just doesn't want to worry about that and wants to fulfill this dream of working and training and practicing with Artem while also with her mother. And she feels that Brie might be ruining that for her. So Brie brings in someone to help, not with the Nikki and the dancing and the Artem stuff, but rather with the branding with Daniel Bryan. Bryan's like, I don't want to sell people things. I have no interest in this whatsoever. WWE, I have other passions, but WWE is really my biggest and only passion for the most part. My first and foremost. So he's a no-go on the selling and the branding and all that nonsense. So Nikki brings Kathy to the dance practice, and obviously it's very overwhelming. They're very tired by the end of it, but they're enjoying it, and Kathy starts to see it in a new light. And she always appreciated the art of dance, but now she has a new respect for people like Nikki and Artem and all the other dancers for everything they have to go through before they go out on stage to do their performance for the Dancing with the Stars show. So Kathy at the same time advises Nikki to not care what anyone else thinks. She says the same thing that she had said earlier on in the episode about just fuck everyone else. Do not worry about what anyone else thinks. When Brie finds out that Nikki wants to train with Ronda and not with Brie and Bryan, Brie gets upset, thinking that Bryan's going to be upset and that we're a package deal, we're a tag team, we should be training together, and I can't drop everything and go train with you with Ronda Rousey over in Los Angeles because I have a kid. I can't do that. So Brie talks to Bryan about it. She talks to Bryan about everything. About the training thing, Bryan doesn't really care. She talks to him about the Artem training thing, and Bryan honestly doesn't really see a problem with it. He's like, you can have your opinion, but at the end of the day, it's her life. She's going to do what she wants to do, and it's not really that bad of an idea to do it anyway, to train with Artem. And if it gets people talking, then she's an adult. She'll deal with it. If she knows the consequences of what she does, that's all that matters. So Bryan, with the words of wisdom here, the voice of reason on this show, the sole voice of reason, more often than not, it seems. So anyway, Brie introduces Bryan to Bryan's Hose, a new marketing tool that Bryan can get involved in when he's done with wrestling, which it's some organic stuff. It would be like reusable wood or something like that, and the thing would be called Bryan's Hose, which is obviously a no-go. But it was a cute little campaign. It doesn't make Bryan want to do it. It makes him laugh, if anything else. But he does hear out the idea, and he's not a big fan of it as Brie would like to think, as Brie would want it to be, as Brie would want him to be as big of a fan of it. But, he hears her out and wants to kind of see what her proposal is before he turns down any idea to branch off into business once he's done with wrestling. So Brie, she gives her side of things. She gives her side of the story. She just goes, I just wanted to show you, Bryan, that there was more to WWE. There was more to him than WWE. There's more to him than wrestling, and that you can have fun with it too. And at the same time, Bryan's like, yes, I appreciate that, but you also have to realize that I'm not going to move. You're the hummingbird. I'm the tree. I ain't going anywhere. So don't be mad at me when I don't give in to what you want. So they come to a stalemate. They come to a nice meeting point there with both. They're not arguing about it. They're just kind of giving their 2 cents from both sides of the story. So Nikki FaceTimes Artem before they go out for the performance, the big dancing number. Artem's not there. He's somewhere else for whatever reason, but the other dancing partners that had helped Nikki and Kathy train are there to help them and support them and whatnot, as is John Laurinaitis, his, I believe his stepdaughter, maybe his daughter, I'm not sure. I think it's his daughter from another marriage, obviously. The 15-year-old Maya, I think her name was. And there might be someone else in the audience, too. Maybe Daniel Bryan, I think. I forgot. But, Johnny does not know that Kathy is dancing. So when he sees her on stage, he's freaking out. He's all happy, blah, blah, blah. So that goes really, really well. And then to close out the episode, Nikki feels that she's not being authentic to herself when it comes to how she presents herself, and she just wants to be happy, and she's worrying about way too much about what other people think and say about her. And in the process, she's not being authentic to herself. So the Bellas return to action on Monday Night Raw. I think it was the Labor Day episode back in September of 2018. They return to action against the Riot Squad, emerge victorious on that night. And at the end of the match, Bray's like, oh, yeah, everything's going perfect. It couldn't have gone better, which is the farthest thing from the truth. I thought they were just going to end it there, and I'm like, wow. That match was really not that good. The match sucked, and Bray came off way worse than Nikki did. But Bray's like, oh, it's going as perfectly as you can imagine it can go. And I'm thinking, like, the match was not that good. Like, maybe, she didn't mess up early on, so that was what constituted it as a great match for her. I'm not exactly sure. But then she's like, oh yeah, everything's going perfect. And then she botches. Not once, but twice. It was on those awful-looking suicide dives to the outside. Not once, but twice she messed it up. And she's very disappointed in herself. And even Johnny Ace, John Laurinaitis, comes up to him after the match. And he's like, did you guys not practice the dive before you went out there? And they were like, no. And he's like, yeah, you should probably start practicing that type of stuff again. Especially since Brie has not been in the ring for almost like close to 3 years, 2.5 years. So if you want to start doing stuff like that again, you got to start practicing it. And Brie gets really down on herself, and that leads into the next episode when she inadvertently injures Liv Morgan during a match on Raw, which, and all the backlash and the fallout from that, I can only imagine what they might be saying about that here on the show. And Brie's like, oh, poor me, I hurt Liv. Like, you suck, girl. You're awful. So don't be surprised. But that's another rant for another day. That does it for my review of this episode of Total Bellas, Season 4 episode entitled It's My Life. Check it out on the E! Network before the new episode airs this Sunday on the E! Network. Thank you guys for checking out the review. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more content. We'll be back with a new networking show in the next few days, reviewing the latest episode in what I believe is the Season 2 finale of the Edge and Christian show. So until then, guys, have a great rest of your week. I'm Graham Jason Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.